Hi, and welcome to this live reading from The Veil by Karli Rush, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Quake. My hand skims along the once secured concrete wall. Broken bits and pieces have crumbled to the floor. The now forgotten structure was a resource full of hidden knowledge. Ashes of incinerated books leave only dusty remains. I suppose history has a way of repeating itself. We always succumb to destroying what we fear or do not yet understand. Many other buildings have fallen to the same fate as this one. I keep finding myself here because one day I found a book untouched, and within its resilient tome was a slip of paper, a message written in dire need of a warning. Heed my words. Our world will be torn apart, and the only weapon will be your mind. Never will you lose sight of the vile and massive endings of us so many. Voices will haunt your days, and their detached screams will echo through the nights. Their evil will be among us. Joshua, a survivor of my own nightmares. At the bottom are strange symbols reminding me of the old runes my grandmother used to teach me. They were sigils used for seals, protection, and many other purposes. I brush it off and carefully fold the well-worn slip of paper. I start to place it in my pocket when two strong hands tug me backward. Struggling, I land in his awaiting arms. They told me you were out gathering plants, not reading some old love note. A low chuckle escapes as he playfully flicks the paper still in my hand. Laughing at his foolishness, I quickly slide the note into my back pocket. It's not a love note, Rayden. I've told you that 1,000 times already. He releases me with a teasing grin. Pushing away from him, I decide to razz him. It's a warning, you big jerk. Could be the last words of a dying man. Besides, why are you not at work? Rayden takes one threatening step toward me. What did you just call me, Selene? I know that expression, and I'm in trouble, so I make a run for it. Dashing through the enfeebling doorway, I race down the vine-covered steps, but before I can even reach the tree line, Rayden is chasing me down like a mountain lion on the hunt. Before I know it, I'm lying on the ground with him on top. Familiar with his kind of torture, I scramble to free myself. His hands grip my sides, pinning me in place, and then his malevolent fingers begin tickling me with no mercy in sight. My contagious laughter rivets through the silent woods as Rayden straddles over me. He taunts, "Do you give up?" Writhing beneath him, I try to speak, but it's no use, so instead I nod, confirming my submission. His controlled hands measure their way up my body, and his affectionate lips explore mine. I love you, he softly declares as I trace the features of his handsome face. Those 3 words I have waited so long to hear from him. I knew he wasn't the type of man to play foolish games with someone's heart. If he's saying those words, he means it with every fiber of his being, and it brings peace to my soul. As a hint of a giggle slowly ebbs away from me, I finally utter, I love you too. His arms cradle me. I dislodge a few pine needles from his dark brown hair, wondering how he could have any attachment to the woods when I'm the one lying in a bed of them. He laughs at my baffled expression and shakes his head, brushing the remains out of his hair with a hand. Eventually, he slumps over next to me and says, I see you're wearing the earrings your sister gave you for your birthday last year. They look good on you. Absently, I touch the tear-shaped diamonds. It's the first time I've ever worn them. Usually, I'm not one to wear jewelry, especially anything expensive, but since my sister Bailey presented these as somewhat of a peace offering, I decided it was time to let the past wash away. Our family members traditionally handed down a small, locally owned business from one generation to another. I was the next descendant in line. My sister, for whatever reason, thought it was she who should have inherited the shop, never considering the obvious that I'm 28 and she just turned 22. Plus, she has never stepped a single foot in the place until it was turned over to me. So to make my long story short, she married an auditor and travels with him on his business excursions, shopping to her heart's content. This is why I now have a pair of delicate tear-shaped diamond earrings. So, do you think you will be ready for marriage next time this year, Selene? His deep, husky tone turns on every pulsating rhythm within me. I watch him twine a tender, fresh pine needle around my left ring finger. Couldn't help but smile as I answer, Yes, I told you yes then, and I will always say yes to you, Rayden. He rumbles out another laugh and tosses me on top of him. Are you going to help me or not? I gesture at my hair bombarded with pine needles, old leaves, and dirt. Everyone at the shop will think I had a little sexual encounter out here in the woods, Rayden, I remark, gently combing my fingers through my dark ringlets of hair. He starts unbuttoning my top, grinning arrogantly. That's fine with me. Let them think what they want. We can even come back a little sweaty to confirm their theories. My petite fingers nimbly trail behind his more than generous hands, buttoning my top together. I giggle out, Stop! As soon as I button one, you unbutton another. Quit it! Half-heartedly, I shove his hands away. If it was any other time, he could have his way with me, but I need to get back. Finding enough strength, I jump up and bolt through the trees. I turn to see how close he is, and surprisingly, I have a great head start on him. Knowing Rayden, though, and his stamina, my odds look slim to none in making it to my car. At this point, it doesn't matter if I veer off the path because I know he'll catch me at any moment. I can see my car parked through the dense thicket, and I feel his unyielding grip swing me around. We both laugh with pounding hearts. Slowly, he lowers me down to my feet. With me laughing and breathing heavily, I have a notion to pass out, but he leans in and kisses me. Time stops, and as if his kiss, his lips, his very breath revitalizes me somehow, like a soul kiss. It's deep and passionate, telling me exactly how much he wants me, how much he truly loves me. Did you get everything you came out here for? He asks as I pull out a list from my car and hand it to Rayden. I rummage in a large hand-woven basket nestled in my front seat. Okay, go through the list for me. I glance up at him, admiring how he leans his self-assured body against my car. Today, he's not in his usual uniform work attire. Today, he's in jeans and a t-shirt, which perfectly enhances his strong, well-built physique. This is understandable since he owns a construction company and builds log homes throughout the area. Clears his throat with a snicker in my direction. Okay, willow bark? I shuffle through the sealed bags, find the one I marked with willow bark, and answer, check. Burdock root, do you have that one? Again, I flip through and locate the correct package. Yes, I have it. He continues down my list. Mint leaves, dandelions, and passion flowers? He peers over my shoulder as I search for the items. A satisfied smile blossoms across my face. Check, check, and check. I have them all. Tomorrow, I'll probably need to refill a few others, such as pine needles. I stress the last two words because we were immersed in them, hinting at it as an invitation for him to meet me again. His cool and charming demeanor tells me he accepts my invitation, but with another proposal. How about I meet you at your place later tonight and bring whatever you need, including pine needles? Suddenly and quickly, I press my lips hard along his, nothing he wasn't used to. It's my way of sealing our deals. I'll follow you back into town. I have a new client to meet across the street from your shop today, he states. I nod to him as I push my things back and slam the door shut to the Prius, but it doesn't close. A loud clang alerts me to look for the source of the problem. The seatbelt dangles in between the door and the door jamb. I yank on the old belt a few times, and eventually it zips back into its rightful place. I close the passenger door and glance back at Rayden in his truck. Of course, he is shaking his head, grinning. It's apparent I easily amuse him, or rather, my rebuttal. I like my car. It's small and paid for, and I refuse to buy a new one, but Rayden doesn't trust it, aside from minor repairs like brakes, battery replacement, routine oil changes, and the fact that I have to remember the last time I refueled because the fuel gauge reads incorrectly, which I'm completely fine with. It just needs a little TLC, that's all, and I don't worry about anything else that could go wrong with it. It takes me where I need to go so far, and I'm okay with that. I'm parked in my designated spot in front of the Natural Path shop. It's an entirely organic food and natural remedy store. We've always done decently well here on the west side of this hard-to-find-on-the-map town. I have a more than reasonably large studio apartment on the back side of the shop, which is convenient, I suppose, but if I were to ever call in sick, I had better truly be. Knowing I'm running later than anticipated, I quickly collect my things. I hear Rayden yelling from across the street. I'll see you later, my tree hugger. Juggling the basket and my purse in one hand, papers and forms to fill out in the other, I managed to shut the door with the heel of my sandal. Yeah, I'll see you soon, tree slayer. I tease back, making my way to the door. Carol, one of the ladies who works for me, assists me through the door. Instantly, she does her thing, reaching, grabbing, and sorting everything in the blink of an eye. This is one of the reasons I hired her. Plus, she's a longtime family friend. I rush back to my office and check the messages. I dig out the bank bag and start to walk toward the front when I notice everyone gawking out of the front display windows. Oh, sweet child, Miss Selene, you best come back, take a look. I move through everyone as they make a passage for me. A white BMW car parks next to Rayden's truck. I watch while a very attractive woman steps out of the pristine car. Rayden strides over and greets her. They shake hands and he ushers her inside the restaurant. I note that she never attempts to pull her skin-tight skirt down, hoping at some point she would at least inch it closer to her knees. Everything about her strictly states a fashion show glamour girl, from the tip of her leopard printed leather boots to her honeyed blonde hair. Before I allow my mind to run wild with unpleasant thoughts, I wheel around and say, okay, ladies, let's get back to work, shall we? Irritated, I find myself numbly twirling a strand of my hair, a slight nervous habit I tend to do occasionally. Besides, Rayden has already told me he has plans to meet a new client today. Holding my tone with assurance, I return to the office, but the whispering voices still linger quietly behind me. I glare over my shoulder, flipping my hair back, and point out, I can still hear you. Don't you have the decency to wait at least until I'm out of the room? I chuckle. My stern expression soon exposes a teasing grin as I turn back around. Yes, Miss Selene, certainly, but we were just so... I wave a dismissing hand to show it's no longer a discussion. I adjust my seat, which is a common occurrence with the girls always using the computer desk in my office to process orders. Since business is growing, everyone ensures inventory checks are made each day. Our most lucrative products are pine needle tea, elderberry tea, and lemon balm, so I search far and wide for the right ingredients. I want our products to be as pure and wholesome as possible. Once I've adjusted my chair, I look at our catalog and check on a couple of shipments. Mandy lightly taps on the open door. Hi, Selene. Hey, I was wondering if I could go for lunch now? I wrap my hair around a clip, taking a few pins out of my mouth as I slide them in place on either side of the clip. By all means, sure, go. Where are you going for lunch? I ask. She drums her nails momentarily and comments. McNallis across the street? She throws me a jeering smile and struts away. A few seconds later, she yells from the front counter. And Shelley is coming along too. I snicker, shaking my head, and begin organizing the order forms. I make a mental count. I usually have 4, maybe 5 girls helping at the shop, but today we had one call in for a dental appointment and another extending her vacation in the Colorado mountains. That leaves me with Carol, Shelley, and Mandy, which seemed to work really well. Once they return, I'll prepare the tea packets from the ingredients I gathered earlier this morning. Filling out the last of the forms and making labels, I happen to glance over to my computer screen. The image flickers off and then spontaneously back on. That's strange. I lean over my desk and check the power cords. Everything is plugged in correctly. I step back when I hear Carol calling out, Miss Selene, something is amiss with your register up here? I press the power button one more time with no results. I walk up to the front counter and suddenly everything on the walls begins to shake. Carol's wide, dark eyes lock onto mine and I can sense the same apprehension rising in her. The walls shake harder, knocking the merchandise down to the floor. The lights waver on and off as if they have the mind of their own. Selene, what's happening? I race around the counter to Carol. I'm not sure, but I've lost power in the office. I scan the shop, and I know we have no power throughout. I comfortingly pat Carol's arm and ask her, Carol, I need you to make a call on your cell and see what you can find out for me, okay? I nod my head, waiting for her reply. It takes her a second, but she hesitantly reaches down and pulls out her cell phone from her pocket. I then move cautiously toward the front of the shop, stepping over vitamins and supplement containers. Where are you going, Miss Selene? Her voice crackles with fear. I twist around, point to the main front doors, and reply, I'm just going to take a look out of the front here and see if anyone else is having problems. And tremors. I whisper under my breath. Living in this urban area, we have never experienced tremors, aftershocks, or earthquakes. But it doesn't necessarily mean I'm unaware of them. Assuredly, I swing open the door and see everyone merging out of the buildings with the same bewildering expressions. I hear someone a store down from me yell, Do you have any power, Selene? Take another step out and reply, No, I'm guessing the entire block is knocked out. Another store owner shouts from across the street, We're out of power here too. Carol's tone seems more disturbed as she conveys her concern. Selene, I can't get a signal. I'm so sorry, my cell, it's not working. Do you want me to go get yours? People start filling the sidewalks, and I glance out to see if I can find Rayden, but no luck. So I redirect my attention back to Carol. No, it's fine, Carol. I'll go. I shuffle back, trying to miss a metal stand that has fallen over. Then a violent quake rips its way through the area. Instead of objects descending to the floor, entire walls collapse, burying Carol beneath the rubble. I scream out, Carol! Staggering back and dropping to my knees, I grip the floor in panic. That's when absolute chaos breaks free. Ear-piercing screams blend in with the graying dust clouds, and men and women alike bellow out in pain, horror, and sheer shock. But no sound comes from where the counter once stood, where Carol had just spoken to me. I crawl, dodging the shelves that tumble over, reaching my goal. Carol? The earth is still quivering and shifting, and I'm beginning to feel like I'm inside a can while someone shakes the hell out of it. Silence is the only reply I receive, but I continue to call out her name. Carol? Can you hear me? Can you move? I instantly halt when I find Carol lying in the debris, just barely in view as the concrete blocks pile a tomb over her breathless body. Her smoky brown, inert eyes reveal her life quickly ended. I hang my head in tears and drag my nails against the non-shaking floor, realizing just then that someone is shouting my name. Selene? Guarding myself, I hold my hands up, waiting for anything else to crash into me. A few things bang and topple over my head. Standing wearily, I move toward the voice. My shop no longer appears to be a building or any business that once resided here. Come to a stop at an unreal ravine that was once our major street. I peer over the chasm to find Rayden standing on the edge, shouting, Selene, are you hurt? I have the chance to think about it for the first time, so I glance down. I'm coated in dust and unharmed. I turn to look in Carol's direction, broken-hearted, and focus back on Rayden. I'm fine. You? I narrow my gaze to see the woman he met with today for lunch clinging to the back of his shirt. Even from where I stand, I can see the terror riddling her, making her latch onto anyone. Rayden shouts over the commotion. I'm okay. Shelley and Mandy are helping others right now. I feel relief as I sigh, knowing they survived. A numbing lump catches in my burning throat, but I try to force the words out regardless. Carol. Before I finish my sentence, a man I don't recognize at first charges deliriously toward me. Frantically, I saunter backward, but he still lunges, slamming us into the sidewalk with him up close and personal. I now understand who he is. The holes tatter his dark dress coat, which may have been a lighter color many years ago, along with a filthy cotton undershirt and worn stained pants, is all he wears. Aside from his filthy clothing, his vulgar scent alone could have very well knocked me off my feet without his assault. He's the homeless man who stands down at the street corner from time to time. Hurry, they're coming! He screams, shaking me like I'm made of rags. I begin kicking and shoving, trying to get him off me. His milky, bleak eyes fixate on a spine-twisting fear inside me. I can hear Rayden yelling belligerently, Get the fuck off her! Rayden's threat never phases the homeless man as we scuffle on the sidewalk, and then as soon as the incident starts, it stops. The man freezes. Digging his marred fingers into my arms, he unexpectedly cranes his head to the side and stutters, Do you hear? Do you? I shake my head because I can't hear anything other than the waning cries and moans of despair. He jerks me up and points to the district's east side, but I still have no clue what he's talking about. Rayden's voice howls out, Move away from her, or so help me, I will put a fucking bullet in your head. Vengeance drips from each word Rayden states, but suddenly I catch a silky flow of a veil weaving down the sidewalk. It's larger than life, as if the heavens above enclose a sheer curtain on this side of the town. The mad, homeless man drops me like a ton of bricks and runs, screaming at the top of his lungs, It's here! It's here! It's here! I slowly sit up, hypnotized by what is unfolding before me. An unfamiliar scent passes as the translucent veil flutters between me and the gaping ravine. I stand, feeling drawn as I stare up at the sky and follow the majestic veil right in front of me. Without really any thought, I reach out and touch it, expecting my hand to go through it, but I discover it's more like glass. Surrounding and closing off this section, my thoughts settle and I realize it's some type of confinement. The madman wasn't entirely insane after all. I hammer my hands desperately into the glass-like veil. Rayden! I scream, Rayden! As I beg for him, I notice he's contemplating how to descend the trenches of the measureless ravine between us. He slides his gun in the back of his jeans and paces the edge dangerously. I'm not sure why, but a hollow feeling of doom churns inside me, and an inhuman screeching noise erupts through all of the other chaotic sounds. Every living soul ceases doing whatever they are doing, and amid their blood running cold, stares down to the end of our street. People begin running down the dismantled street, jumping over fallen barriers and stampeding over anyone in their way. And then ghostly arrows plague the air. The deadly onslaught strikes at least a dozen directly in the head. Bodies plummet on top of each other, and that unfamiliar scent I couldn't recall before was the downpour of blood. I feel paralyzed as I turn to look at Rayden, unaware that I'm shaking, till I see my hands shivering in pure panic. Rayden! Rayden! I scream out, unsure if he can even hear me over the slaughtering taking place just a block away from me. Run, Selene! Run! Pulling some sense together, I glance back at the ocean of red filling every crack and crevice and start to run. I peer across to Rayden as he runs down the broken pavement. Don't look back! Keep running, Selene! He's like a mirror image of me on the opposite side of the street, lunging and hurtling past the obstacles we encounter, except he's not the one being hunted. Cars, trucks, and other vehicles overturned out of control. Fires blaze off in the distance. and the ground quivers beneath my scampering feet as an explosion ejects with such force and intensity it commands my body to thrust face first into the concrete. I must have veered off somehow because I no longer have a view of the ravine, and I can't even hear Rayden anymore. I quickly push myself back up when my foot slips into the murky water draining along the side streets. The pipes must have ruptured. I see my reflection just briefly, my hair in disarray, half fastened by a broken clip, my nose and cheeks skinned up, and then a splatter of blood streams through the water. I whip my head around and see a man lying on his side, motionless, with an arrow embedded through his temple. I amble upward and demand my legs to jolt forward because ahead of me I spot a tree line. I dart a fleeting look over my shoulder to see if whatever took that man's life is anywhere close to me. In the most desperate moment of my life, I realize everything I once knew will be forever changed. I'm not running from a group of scared, senseless, crazed people. I'm running from a macabre pack of wraith-like warriors.